Good morning, state of Alaska. My name is Lee Butterfield. Welcome to the Den AK. This is a new program brought to you by DEED, the Department of Early Education and Childhood Development, and all those little acronyms that I got to learn over and over again. And we are coming to you every Wednesday at 7 a.m. To talk about what's happening in the state, in the kind of the state of education, right? And so I'm in my mobile studio right now out of South Anchorage High School in what we lovingly call the Den, which is kind of messy right now because I don't have students here to clean up for me. And so we are going to take it to our crew. We got our crew here. We're going to introduce everybody, tell you what this show's all about, and then we're going to move on to kind of the schedule of questions and answers and some of the activities you can be a part of. The one thing I want you to remember right now is to hit that like button, subscribe so you can get notifications when these shows come out for you. And also do me a big favor, and if you have questions that come up, you can always put those questions at asktheden.org. And every Saturday or every Wednesday, it's Wednesday, my dudes. It's Wednesday, my dudes. October 14th, to be specific. Every Wednesday at 7 a.m., you can go to thedenak.org and see what we're kicking over here and get some of that information. And if you want to be on the show and talk about what you're doing with your students in the great state of Alaska, go ahead and go to that asktheden.org. Give us your name, number, and your email address, and we'll get in contact with you from the show. Speaking of the show, let's move over to the crew and the guests. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Den AK. This is a great time to be here. If we would take a real quick blast out on everyone, just give me your name as you pop across the screen, and if you have a title, make it up and give it to us. There you go. Starting over with there. This is going to be interesting.
We don't know who's over there.
You know, but that's the fun part. I'm pointing at somebody on your screen, too. No, let's start with Bria.
On my screen, it's me. I'm Tom Claymeyer, and I'm a social studies teacher from Eagle River, Alaska, and serving right now as the president for NEA Alaska.
Great. John.
I'm John.
That's John. John has a title, too. John is the man who needs no sleep. Kick it over to Grace. Let's hear from Grace.
I'm Grace Unger.
And what's your title, Grace? What are we going to say you're doing today?
I have no idea.
Supreme Overlord of Ribbons. Supreme Overlord of Ribbons. That's Grace Unger, everybody. Supreme Overlord of Ribbons. Let's kick it over to Dr. Allman.
I'm Luke Allman, principal of South Anchorage High School.
Ben Fisher.
I am Ben Fisher.
I am Ben Fisher. Is that it? Is that where you're going to leave it? Is that how we're going to kick this?
That's how we're going to kick
That's how we're going to do it. Clara.
I'm Clara Unger. I'm a senior at South and usually the studio manager of the Den, but it's kind of turned into a little bit of a collective thing. So
Collective studio management, right? This is fantastic. All right, Dr. Johnson, kicking it over to you.
All right, good morning. I'm Michael Johnson, and I'm commissioner of the department, and according to your monologue, I am now one of your dudes, so I'm feeling great about today.
That is fantastic. And it is Wednesday, and we're going to hear all about Wednesday from Elliot. What day is it, Elliot?
It is Wednesday, my dudes.
All right, and who are you, and why are you here besides the little nameplate that pops up when you talk?
I'm Elliot, and I'm just here to nod my head and agree and react to things.
And is it really a nod, or is it more of a bounce?
A little bit of both. It's a very special combination.
It's a bobblehead bounce. All right, kicking it over to Helly. Helly, tell us all about yourself.
I'm Helly Johnson. I'm a sophomore at Stellar and South.
And she is so super special because she rocks two of my classes during the day while also attending all of her classes on a different schedule at Stellar, and it's pretty awesome. But there are some mornings where she's just like, help me. And kicking it over, Bria, tell us, round this up, wrap this up, make it all work.
I'm Bria Bjork. I'm a senior at South, and I run the Den's Instagram pages.
Yeah, and they say such simple things, but you guys, if it wasn't for these people, the Den would never exist. We're super, super happy that these guys can be with us and work with us as long as they have. I've known these folks for longer than I've known some of my own children. So that's kind of telling you a little bit. We're going to kick this over and get right on script. Today, I just wanted to remind you guys that you can watch this every Wednesday at thedenak.org. Kick your questions for the commissioner and or Tom and or any of our guests and or for me, even though I can't can't answer them, to asktheden.org. The first thing we want to talk about with each other today is this new item that the state has kind of jumped into in this wild world of sports that we live in, which is Canvas. It's a big thing that's on everybody's mind and on everybody's mouth if they know what's going on with it. So real quick, do you want to give us a rundown, Dr. Johnson, of what is this ethereal thing we call Canvas that is hitting the mouths of people all over the state right now?
Yeah, I'll do my best, but let some of the students talk about it because they experience it in a way that I don't. But really, when you think about it, before COVID, when we talked about a place to teach and learn, that was our local school. But when COVID came along, the local school building became something that wasn't available all the time. And Canvas is a digital platform. And really, all it is a place to teach and learn. It's a place for teachers to provide instruction, and it's a place for students to go and learn. So it's kind of like an empty shell. It's just the platform, kind of like a building is just a building, empty classrooms. But when teachers arrive and students arrive, that's when education happens. And so Canvas is much the same way. It's a digital platform. It's empty. But when teachers show up and students show up, then education happens.
Yeah, I mean, I've been using Canvas for about 10, 12 years now, and I kind of liken it a little bit to my own digital filing cabinet, right? So instead of having to rewrite my lesson plans every year, scratch something out, get out. Anybody here ever use whiteout in your entire life? Ever? No? None of you? Yes? Was it in the bottle or the strip? Right? So technology has come so far that we went from the bottle and the paintbrush to the little strip that no one could make work to now we have Canvas. And so I don't have to use whiteout anymore. I can just type in delete in the rich text editor, and then I can save it, and it's changed. And it's changed for all my students, so I don't have to go make copies again. So I've been using it pre-COVID. I'll be using it post-COVID because now I can put everything I want in that space, and it's always there for me. And if I make small changes in my curriculum, I can bounce that to the next semester with those changes in place. And so I kind of dig it that way, but I do think it's a good idea. How has Canvas, and all of you guys have worked with me on Canvas pre-COVID and during COVID, so what's your experience been with that kind of the materials that your teachers make for you and put together for you and are able to work with you on? How is it going for you? Anyone just jump in. If it gets to chaos, I'll just say, Ben, go.
Okay. As long as the teachers know how to use it properly, it works really good. They can put all the resources that they need on it, like the Zoom links to access everything. So it's been actually working pretty well this quarter so far. A lot better than last year now that we have a whole plan to do everything.
Yeah, it's always a bumpy ride starting out on a new system on the fly, but I will say that I've been super, and you guys are all at South, and so maybe we'll get Helly some information from Helly too in a little bit with understanding it from different spaces too. I can't speak for every single school in the district in the state, but I will say that I've been working with a lot of South teachers since last spring, and a lot of people put a lot of time into learning this and how to present on this platform, and I've been super proud. I have some people who literally, you guys all know Mr. Dave Fandel, everybody. Mr. Dave Fandel, let's give it up for Mr. Dave Fandel, who did almost take off his thumb the other day with an angle grinder. This is a guy who can literally tackle a bear and destroy it with his bare teeth, with bear teeth. His human teeth that are bare into the bear, different bears. Homophone. That's, yeah. And so, but at the same time, I handed him a mouse, and he started shaking, and he started getting scared. And I was like, do you have a problem with small mammals? He goes, no, I have a problem with small electronics. And so he went from that last spring to now, he is rocking his entire studio with mixed cameras and crazy, ability to do demos from different angles live and then have kids turning in their material through Canvas. And, it's just this huge shift. So I'm pretty proud of folks like Dave who've worked really hard to make that space work. Helly, are you getting that kind of everywhere? Is everyone kind of jumping along and doing what they can to get where they need to be in your experience?
So far, yes. I haven't been at Stellar long enough to know what it was like pre-COVID. But so far it's been pretty smooth. Teachers have set up the perfect kind of way for us to learn proficiently. It's going pretty well.
Yeah, I will say that one thing I've noticed as a teacher is it definitely puts a little more responsibility on the student that hasn't been there before, right? Because I don't get to come around to your desk every 5 minutes and wake you up and say, hey, do number 4, right? So it's been that experience, but it's been a sharing experience. I hope a lot of teachers have been sharing with their students too. Like, hey, this is your chance. You've always wanted to prove you can handle what's out there, man. This is your chance to prove it. Let's step up and do what you need to do and move forward. So it's been pretty cool. Anyone else got an experience? How about a bad experience someone's had so far on Canvas that maybe some new training could help teachers get into that space?
My notes are definitely filled with my files that I've had to scan in of like my handwritten work, which I didn't have to email, which is a little annoying, but I mean, it is what we have to do in this crazy year.
So you're emailing your scanned notes?
Yeah, because AirDrop on my computer wasn't working, so.
So you had to get it to your computer in order to then load it onto Canvas?
Yeah.
So see, like a moment like this, do you have the Canvas student app?
I do not.
So now you can go into those where you need to turn in the notes, open it up to the assignment, click take a picture, and it'll take a picture through your camera and upload it without ever having to email. So like just moments like this is why this show exists, so that folks like Elliot can go, wait, what? I can just turn in from the camera on my phone? Like life just got this easy? Yeah, life gets that easy. That Canvas student app on the phone will let you turn in all your assignments that you snap a picture, it's turned in automatically. So kind of cool that we can have that conversation. Now, the big thing that does come up, because this is public money, right? So how did this get paid for? How did this get paid for? Where did it come from? Like if I'm a district and all of a sudden I get this note that says, hey, you're using Canvas, how do I pay for Canvas as a district? So how do we get there, Dr. Johnson? Like what happens?
Yeah, well, before the state purchased a license for Canvas, several districts around the state were paying for it out of their own funding that they had for education. When COVID came along and we realized that, we needed a place for teaching and learning to happen, even if the building wasn't available, we used some of the CARES Act money. It was money that the federal government provided to every state to pay for things related to COVID and, our response. And so we asked for some of that money to be used for a statewide license for Canvas. And a little later on, we'll talk about, why we went with a statewide license. But we were able to use that money, and some districts have been able to get a refund for the license they paid for and put that money toward teachers or other supports for students because we were able to cover that cost for this year.
That's pretty fantastic. So in other words, like if I'm a district that's spent like several large amounts of money on this license for a year, and you got to come in and I'm in a rough spot, right? Because we got people not all around doing what they need to be doing. And that kind of helps that out so they can kind of readjust that budget. And I'll kick this one over to you, Mr. Claymire. So as a representative of teachers in Alaska, how did you you were involved in that process, and you had a whole group. I remember a whole group of people in that room talking about like, hey, what's going to work that isn't forcing anything onto teachers and allows them to grow and flourish and kind of make their own brand in that space. And so do you want to kick in a little bit about your experience in that process, thinking about what it is we wanted to use and present to teachers to be available?
Yeah, sure. So my job as the union president is to connect and support the educators in the state, not just teachers, but all the educators that are members. And so learning is our passion. Learning is what we do, or teaching is what we do, right, for learning and for the benefit of our students. And, when schools had the emergency response in the spring and shut down, that was concerning, obviously, to everybody in the community, to kids, although they probably enjoyed it the first couple weeks. I'm sure even they were starting to miss school. That happens about mid-June anyways in the summer, right? But this time was happening in March or April, and teachers weren't able to connect with their kids, and there were lots of concerns there. And so the big question, the elephant in the room, is like, what are we going to do? How long is this going to last? What if it lasts too long? And of course, now we're in a point where it's lasting longer than we ever thought it would. And frankly, education, I think, has changed forever as a result. And so the back to Commissioner's statement earlier is, how do we continue teaching and learning when the space that we occupy is not the same? So we create a virtual space and ways to connect with students. And so we got together some of like you, Lee, there are lots of teachers around the state that have been doing distance learning, very experienced with different models, different learning management systems, different ways of doing distance learning in rural communities. They're actually live streaming classes from one village to another to take advantage of teachers that have expertise in different areas to be able to share that across distances. And so we've been doing distance learning for a long time. Now everybody has to do it, and it's a huge learning experience with that technology for teachers, for students, and so we really like that the state chose Canvas as the LMS because of the what's called the commons that exists on Canvas, that is essentially an open source depository for kind of the filing notebook that you were talking about, that Canvas is in your classroom. That's your personal classroom filing notebook. Canvas is a shared file cabinet from anybody in the world that puts teaching materials up. And so we're going to build that digital curricula, the resource, the book room, so to speak, in teacher lingo, right? Go to the book room to find stuff that can be shared by teachers throughout the state. And that'll make everybody better teachers as we share those resources and pull out the best stuff and contribute our own creations to that repository.
Well, wow. I got to tell you, you are the master of the segue. That was a pretty fantastic transition right into the commons. I got to tell you, that's artistry in the making right there. And with that, I kind of want to talk about the commons a little bit because you brought it up. So it's this super cool concept of who has access to Canvas. Well, right now, anyone in the state that is an educator that wants access to Canvas can have it. And you too can have it. And there's a process to get it. And some folks are aware of it, but I meet people all the time that just didn't know that this was a possibility. And then when I show them the commons, they're like, I need this. I want this. Why don't I have this? And so to kind of talk a little bit about the commons, it is this space internationally now with Canvas where teachers from around the country and around the world can load units of study with the standards they address. They can load whole courses. I can go online and get a whole course on 9th grade English. And if I don't like a piece of it, I can delete it once I pull it out onto my own space, take it out, put something new in, adjust dates, adjust what we're talking about. As a teacher, that's complete freedom. As a maker and as someone who spends way too much time on Tinkercad, it's just it's curriculum for nerds, right? It's curriculum sharing for nerds. And I think about when I first started teaching and it was like 4 days in and I had no idea what I was going to do because the stress of like actually being in charge and not having that support of that teacher as a student teacher there, and like getting really nervous and being able to walk down the hallway and talk to that teacher who's been doing it for so long that they have it in like repeat mode, and they were like, oh no, sweetie, here you go, and they just open up a folder and like slap down a bunch of paperwork and like, just follow these steps and put this on the board and it's all laid out right here, and you're just like, oh, thank you. And I'd go to the copy room and I'd make a copy and I'd bring back the original to them, and then I'd go back to my room and I'd see what I need, and I'd find out I need to make 3 copies of every one of these sheets for every student in the room in order to do it. So I go back to the copy room and I make all those copies and I bring that back. But now we're at this cool moment where if I'm a new teacher, forget COVID, right? This is after COVID, right? If I'm a new teacher and I'm coming in, I'm teaching the 3rd grade, and I did my student teaching in like the 5th grade, and all of a sudden people have their fingers up their noses and they're really close to each other, and I'm supposed to teach them about a triangle that's gradient pink and all this other stuff, and I'm really, really freaked out at the whole moment. All I got to do is get on Canvas, go to Commons, find 3rd grade gradient pink triangle teaching with booger people. And oh, look, somebody wrote that in Minnesota. Look at the standards. Oh, look, they're on national standards. I can kick this one, see if it fits this Alaska standard that I need. Download it into my shell, and I can teach everyone about triangles. And it's going to be okay, and no one's going to get boogers on me, and it's going to be awesome. And so, like, that opportunity as a teacher is phenomenal. I don't have to go to the copy room. I don't have to go back to the copy room. I don't have to make changes on paper and go and use the whiteout and do those things. It's there for me. I get to breathe. I'm not treading water all the time. I actually get to swim. And for anyone who's been teaching in Alaska, you know what I'm talking about. You've been through this moment of sheer and utter terror of what to do next in a room full of people looking at you. Right? It's spooky, but now you have that comfort of knowing, like, hey, I can go somewhere and get what I need when I need it. And it's kind of cool, but...
Well, I was going to say, and the beauty of that, Lee, is not that you just aren't going next door and hope that the teacher next door has a quality thing that you can just insert. Sometimes you go to the teacher next door and you strike out and you got to go start working your way down the hall, right? That doesn't quite work for my class. And here we've got 8,000 or 9,000 classroom teachers in the state. I've got 8,000 or 9,000 next door teachers that I can just click on, they're a click away, and I can look through the material that anybody has posted. And I actually have an incredible opportunity to interact with far more people than I would in my school or in my district. We all go to trainings every year. There's different events around the state or nationally that you may or may not have the money to get sent to, or lucky enough that your district sends you. NEA Alaska provides those conferences, but we get a couple hundred people together a couple times a year to talk shop, so to speak. And here everybody's connected all the time. And this is going to be incredible when it gets built. And this is not to say that everybody has to use Canvas with their students. This is not to say that districts have to use Canvas. What it does is it allows teachers access to the commons, and they can pull down the material, and then they can use it if they're using Google Docs, or if they're using Clever or Seesaw or whatever other platform that they want to use. And so it's really versatile. And so we appreciate, teachers are, you get teachers in a room, we're all used to being the one with the right answer. And so you get 1,000 teachers in a room, and you've got 1,000 right answers. So we would never want to pick just one platform and say, this is the one size fits all for everybody. But it does provide a platform that everybody can use. And there's some advantages around the state too, in terms of when you start talking about bandwidth issues, in terms of caching material around the state to improve access in areas that have limited internet capability. So we're really excited about this.
Yeah, no, I dig it. You can actually download whole courses, and students can download them as e-publications. So if they don't have internet access at home, they can pop that right onto their iPad and be working on at least access to the material at home. Even if they can't turn stuff in, they have access to their content so that they can take care of those things. I think it's pretty solid, and I like that you point out that it's more of a gateway to material than it is a forced usable thing, right? So if you want to use it, use it. But if you don't, right, at least you have this open door to get into this material. One of the cool things also that you might want to talk about a little bit, Dr. Johnson, is that, I'm a teacher every, I don't know how many years, I think it's this year, I have to go get recertified, right? Because someone has to give me a piece of paper that says you're okay to be in front of kids. And I appreciate that, because I have my own children, and I want those people to have that piece of paper that says they're okay to be in front of my kids. And so I have to go do all that work. And to get that, I have to go through all these wonderful, wonderful trainings that remind me that we're supposed to have ethics, and we're supposed to have the right, mindset of teachers, of bringing knowledge and work-relatable skills to students and all those things. So I need to get my refreshers to make sure, just like every other profession, I need to prove that I know what I'm talking about, that I know the laws, that I know what it means to be a professional in this section, so that I am certified to be that professional. Now, kind of cool, I can go to work, log into my Canvas, and I can go directly where I need to go in about a month and a half and be able to see that shell that I need to enter it as a student. So professional development wise, where do you see this going at a state level for teachers and educators, professional development wise?
Yeah, well, um, professional development is a fancy way to say education, right? So education's not doesn't discriminate based on age, and neither does Canvas. It's a place for teaching and learning. And even if you're a teacher, you need to still be learning, and teachers teach other teachers. And Canvas is a place for all of that to happen. It's a place for teachers to receive instruction and continued training. But I think just as important as that, and kind of underlying all that you've been talking about, is it's a place for community. Excuse me. You know, one of the things we enjoy about school, the building, is community. Getting together, being with other people, forming groups around ideas and topics and activities. Well, Canvas also provides that opportunity for us statewide. So you and your colleagues at South are able to form communities because you're in the same building together. Now with Canvas, we can form communities with teachers all across the state, which will really be a great thing for folks in other places. As Ben wisely pointed out, you know, Canvas can go really well or not go well depending on how well the teacher's trained. But just like a classroom doesn't make a teacher a great teacher or a bad teacher. That goes in and out the door with the teacher. And the same with Canvas. Canvas isn't going to make a teacher a great teacher or make a great teacher a less great teacher. So we have to provide the professional development. We have to provide the training, and we have to provide the community that all work together so that every teacher is as good as they can be, so that students have the best experience possible during their education.
Look at this. You guys are just amazing at the whole, like, let's flow into this next space. And so this is pretty great. I feel like such a noob at all of this. So here's where we're at. Yes, John, I said noob. And so here's where we're at on all of this in where I see it from a kind of larger perspective that I want to kind of wrap around for people right now, bring it all back around right now. Some people don't have this. Some people are hearing about this for the first time on this show right now, and they're an educator in the state of Alaska, and they're saying, well, this sounds wonderful. How do I get this? What needs to happen? So let me just state this out there for everybody from what I know. This is available to you. As a teacher, as an educator, this is available to you. It's paid for. If you don't have it yet, there's a process that we need to go through to get you there. One of those processes is communication. So where can folks tell, or who can folks tell, if they want the opportunity to use this platform and they haven't heard about it yet at their district in any way whatsoever? Who do they tell? Where do they go? Do I send them to asktheden.org and send you a list, or is there someone else they can email or call or ask and say, hey, you know, we haven't heard anything about this. How do we get on board to get into this wonderful commons that, you know, Tom is jumping up and down about, and all this wonderful professional development that's going to be available that Dr. Johnson is mentioning? How do I get access to this space if I haven't heard about it yet?
Yeah, well, what I hope is that increasingly you can go almost anywhere. So, but for now, you know, start with your principal, your superintendent. If you're a teacher, go and ask them about it. We've been sending information out in those areas. The Den, I hope, is going to be a place where folks hear about it and understand what it is, why it is, and make the most of it. So, yeah, I hope that they can email the Den and find out more, or at least get connected with somebody that knows more. Fellow teachers that are using it, I think, is probably the best place to go, because you hear about that experience. But hopefully, as this develops and grows, especially Alaska Commons, it'll be a place where just becomes more and more known throughout the state, both for educators and students, but also parents and community members that just want to peek inside and see, hey, what's going on in education in our state? And I think that'll be great in terms of folks being able to look inside school, so to speak, in a way that they haven't been before, and realize some of the great opportunities kids have in this state because of courses that teachers put together for them to learn all sorts of things.
It's fantastic. Thank you. John, you're my chat monitor today, right? You're rocking the monitoring of the chatting. And are you logged in as us in the monitoring of the chatting at the moment? Okay, so you're monitoring. Ben, I want to make sure you're logged in to throw in some links here in just a second, please, if you would, into the chat. But, John, what do you have on the chat for the what do you have for the monitoring of the chat? Is there anything pertinent, or are we just saying hi to Amelia because she's awesome? Hello.
Hi to Amelia. That's just about that's about what's going on here.
Okay, well, hey, on our soft opener, we're expecting a lot of you folks are watching this on the archive because it is 7 a.m. and 7:30 a.m. right now, and you're going to be watching it probably later. And if so, and you have questions about anything we've said today, you can send those questions right in at www.asktheden.org, which Ben is so studiously putting into the chat right now. www.asktheden.org. I will say that if you're like, I'm super stoked, I want to have this, I want to use this, I want to work with this, I want to pay attention to this, it sounds like your first step should be, hey, go talk to your principal, say, hey, I heard there's this thing that I can have. Where is it? And if they say, we don't have the money, then I'm giving you a gift right now. You get to say, but it's paid for. Right? And then they're like, really? It's paid for? And they're like, yes. I just was on, the denAK.org, and Lee Butterfield said, it's paid for. And if they say, well, okay, we're going to check, and we're going to bump that up the line and see what's up next, you might find out that your district's already got their instance put together and that they're working on getting you to the right place. Or you might find out that we don't want to deal with this, so we're going to send Mr. Butterfield your email address, and he's going to put you in so that you can get access to the Commons, because that's the most important thing for us, is that you get access to the Commons and you can get a hold of all of this wonderful kind of space where other educators are brainstorming and sharing and changing and modifying and brainstorming some more and coming up with these epic spaces to work with. So that's awesome. And then the concept of what is going on in education, keep with it, Ben, because this is kind of important. Folks out there in the greater Anchorage area, you're looking for something to do this weekend, remember, go to popupdriveInak.com. That's www.popupdriveInak.com, because yours truly at South Anchorage High School, this crew right here is hosting drive-in films out at South Anchorage High School. We're only going to let 100 cars in per film, so get your tickets soon. Just as a heads up, and you'll hear this later today as well, if you watch our other show at noon, you don't have your tickets by 5 p.m. Friday, you're not getting in. That's how it goes. So make sure you've ordered those tickets and you've got that on the list. That's kind of how that goes. Otherwise, what else we got going on next week? Oh man, I got some killer news for this show for next week, folks. Stick around, because we got two super important things happening next week. One is we got some Canvas maniacs coming in who really understand the platform to talk about some of the things you can do on the platform and how they teach teachers on the platform. So they're going to be in here. I'm going to give you a tour of the National Commons and how to find the AK Commons once you guys are all set up in your districts, and it just depends on what district you're in. So you're going to get to take a peek. We already have some people throwing some stuff in there, which is kind of crazy, because we haven't really told them it's there, and they're in there plugging in. There's a couple of Battle of the Books shells already in there. So if you need Battle of the Books and you want to do Battle of the Books, you just get into asktheden.org, say, hey, Lee, kick me into that space where I can find that Battle of the Books shell. We will get you in there. Also, next week, we have, you're going to be Mr. Steve Stripling. Mr. Steve Stripling, ladies and gentlemen, from the Big Alaska Show, the Big Alaska Show is going to be here next week. And if you guys don't know who Steve is, he is one of the members of that crazy group of dudes down in Vegas who won the worldwide acapella contests a couple years ago. He's super amazing singer. He runs the Big Alaska Show. He drinks the best coffee ever made on the planet, and he'll be joining us with a couple of choir teachers from around the city and around the state as they are putting together a project to get kids all across the great state of Alaska singing the same song virtually in order to be the house band for the Big Alaska Show. So the whole concept of all these kids around the state will be given the appropriate way to basically record themselves harmonizing with everyone else. You get to get some training from choir teachers and some award-winning barbershop quartet folks, and be a part of this kind of house band for this great, amazing statewide radio show. So tune in next week to learn more about Canvas and get a tour of some of the things you can access there, and to hang out with Steve Stripling and some choir teachers to help you kind of get that piece in. What do I got for the good of the order from this pool of amazing individuals? Anything at all?
We should say hi to Reed on the chat too.
Oh, hello, Reed. Nice to see your chatting face. All right, good. Everyone enjoy John, don't look at me like that. Everyone enjoy yourself. Have a wonderful Wednesday. Remember, tune in at noon at thewolverineden.org, thewolverineden.org, where we will be live from inside an actual Wolverine den at the Alaska Zoo. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Today's the day. That's why I'm standing while talking to you today, is because we are on our mobile setup, and it's got stacked boxes and monitors and all kinds of things around me right now. And we're going to be live from inside the Wolverine Den at the zoo. So make sure you tune in at noon at thewolverineden.org, thewolverineden.org. Have a wonderful, 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 wonderful day.